Hello to every one of you. Hello, TSSG family. Hello, TSSG family. You're in the TSSG space. Well, hello, TSSG family.
Changing the way you see Sunday school with that Sunday school.
Hello to every one of you. Hello, TSSG family. Hello, TSSG family. You're in the TSSG space. Well, hello, TSSG family.
Sunday school. Changing the way you see Sunday school with that Sunday school girl.
Well, hello, TSSG family, and welcome to the international lesson, Markup Monday for this coming Sunday, July the 6th. It's about to be the best month of the year. Anybody else agree with me? Any other July babies out here? So glad to have you on to spend a few minutes together tonight. My name is Waynell. You're in the TSSG space, and here I share Christian content that is largely inspired by and or based on our Sunday school lessons. I do serve the International and the Church of God in Christ communities. If you are one of my Team Kojic members, memo is we have a new time at 6 o'clock. So I've already finished that Markup Monday. The replay is available. We're keeping the International at 7 p.m. I got some travel coming up, just a warning. I got some travel. It's a blessing. It is a great blessing, but otherwise 7 o'clock p.m. is our time. To that end, just know that the next 2 Mondays I will be traveling, and we're going to just kind of see where I am at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. So next week I will be at the International AIM Convention for the Church of God in Christ. So if I happen to have any of my Team Kojic family here because your church uses the international lesson, please know that I love to see you in, where we're going to be, Phoenix, Arizona. I should know that, Phoenix, Arizona. I'll be teaching on Wednesday and Friday. My class is called Christology, but the ISSD has a wonderful week of activities and training and all the things, small group lined up. And I hope that I will have the opportunity to see you there. If you live in the Philadelphia area, I am coming your way in the middle of the month. So if I have anyone here from Philly, let me know. You can let me know in the replay as well. And let's just see if I have friends in Philly. I'll tell you where I'm going to be. And if I got enough Philly friends, who knows? Maybe there'll be a Philly meetup. So let's just see how things go. Thank you so much for the alternate lesson title, Sister Janice Jones, which is Home Alone Tonight. We're going to be previewing a lesson. If you're a first timer on Markup Monday, I want to say welcome to you. Please know that I'm not here tonight to teach the lesson. I've really just taken the information from my markup document, and I've been using this PowerPoint for the last couple of sessions. Some people like it, so I'm kind of trying something new. I'm interested in if you like the concept of the PowerPoint or if you like it when I just talk using my piece of paper. But I'll show you just some of the things that I had in my markup document. We can talk about it, and then I'll let you have the rest of your evening. Now, listen, I confessed to the other group. I confessed. Sometimes you feel like a nut, and sometimes you don't. And tonight, I'm going to say that I am like at a level 8. That is on the happy meter, the mood meter, the mental health meter, whatever you want to call it. I'm a good solid 8. Normally, I'm like a 10.5 or 12, but I'm an 8 tonight. So just kind of endure with me, work with me, but know that I'm committed to this community no matter what. I want to go ahead and get started. Let me pull up. I should have had this up already. Pull up our slide document. We're going to be looking at the boy Jesus in the temple. The boy Jesus in the temple. Now, I also want to share this. If you look in the comments, if you scroll up in the comments just before I went live, I kept saying to myself, I know I've taught this lesson before. And sure enough, it is a repeat of a lesson from July 12th of 2020 at the height of the pandemic when we were still social distancing. And so what I dropped for you was the Markup Monday, my actual lesson teaching. And if you were with me during the pandemic, you know that on Sunday mornings, I went live for Sunday school and we called it social distancing Sunday school. So I put all 3 of those in the comment box. That is because I'm not sure yet when I will go live this week with the lesson, but what I do want you to know is you can get a jump start and see what I said 5 years ago about the same text. And you know what I would love? I really would love this. I would love it if you watch the encore. And then when I do this week's lesson, I would love to hear what you think about my teaching 5 years later. I know that's putting myself out there, but I would love to know what you think 5 years later. I want to know, have I grown in the word? Do I look the same? All the things. I'm not sensitive. I'm not, y'all can tell me I'm not going to be sensitive. All right, let's get started. Let's pray. And then I'm going to have to read off my PowerPoint because I don't think I brought anything in here with me. Nope. That's not a King James version. Okay, Father, we love you. We thank you tonight. Thank you for allowing us to come together. And thank you just for another week. And thank you for every opportunity that you will give us this week as disciples to make our mark on the world, to represent you and your love. Thank you for everything that life brings to us, realizing that there is an opportunity that our issues, our situations create for you to show yourself big in our lives. And so I appreciate that tonight. I bless you for being God and for being King. And I thank you tonight for this community of people that I'll share space with. And as we go into this lesson this week, that you will open up our minds, open our hearts, increase our capacity for your word and our desire to know the more of you. Don't allow us to just sit on the surface and on the banks. Don't allow us to be satisfied with what someone else says about your word, but create a space in us that is so open to the ways that you will grow us and increase us. Bless those who are present tonight and those who will catch the replay. We love you. We give you glory in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So our lesson this week is titled "The Boy Jesus in the Temple." The alternate title, I think I like the alternate title more than this one. It's called Home Alone. Home Alone. We'll be looking at St. Luke chapter 2, verses 41 through 52. Before we jump into this reading, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, we'll read in choppy pieces. Tell me, no, we won't. I'll pull it up. We won't be lazy tonight. We're going to have two screens up. We're going to BibleGateway.com, which, by the way, is all I've done is BibleGateway.com and dropped it into my document, dropped it into the PowerPoint as well. Luke chapter 2, verses 41 through 52. All right, there we go. Hey, Sister Cynthia, glad you're on. I'm glad you're on too, Sister Linda, glad you're here. All right, so anything that you thought about the title, it's a repeat lesson, but anything that you thought about the title or where we're going into a new book of study. I would love for you to go ahead and begin to tell me, what do you look at when you are doing background? We're going to the book of Luke this week, right? And we have been in a different book for several weeks. And so now we're going to the New Testament, and I want to know what your background questions are. I'll read. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days, as they returned, the child tarried behind in Jerusalem. And Joseph and his mother knew not of it. But they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him among their kinfolk and acquaintance. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him. And it came to pass, after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou dealt with us? Both thy father and I sought thee sorrowing. And he said unto them, How is it that ye sought me? Wist ye not that I must be about my father's business? And they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these sayings in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. This is our reading for this week, and I am ready now to get into our Markup Monday conversation. I see here we're already getting into our questions. Let me just tell you, by the way of background, if you download my TSSG notes, you'll notice every week that I answer questions for myself, like, where is this book? Old Testament, New Testament. What is the function of the book? Who is the author of the book? What do I learn about the author of the book? This week, spoiler alert, we're New Testament. We're in the Gospels. That is the type of book. And this is one of the synoptic Gospels. And you want to know what it means to be a synoptic gospel. Luke is like Yeah, he's kind of my favorite. And I like it because I always like to know what was the writer's like occupation. What did they do? Spoiler alert, I know that Luke was a physician, so I like the detail. When I go to my doctor's appointments, I don't know about you, but I'm waiting on the report to hit that. I hate that little system that you have to log into now for your information and results. But trust you me, when I get the email saying my reports are there, I like all the details. And I like the little Zoom meeting with the doctor to go through all the notes. So that is why I tend to like Luke's writing of the Gospels. Reverend Nelson says, why are there 4 Gospels? And what indeed is a gospel? Let's get into our questions. And Brother Kirby already has our first question that he wants to know as we get into verses 41 and 42. Now, his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. I'm sorry, I had to remove the comment so I could read there. All right. So what are you saying? What do you want to know more about? Sister Angela, how long is the journey? And what is the custom of the feast? Was Luke one of the apostles? I like that question, Reverend Nelson, for sure. So y'all know I always create, it begins with the word now, Reverend Nelson says. Thank you for that observation. So it's just Luke chapter 2. Doesn't hurt us to go back and read all of Luke chapter 1, and quite frankly, everything up to verse 40 of chapter 2. I am always running like a cast of characters, so I'm always noting what people do I see. And sometimes people are called by name. Sometimes they are descriptions of people, right? So there's even some people that I left out of here. There's Jesus, there's Joseph, there's Mary, and I should have also included the group of they that went up to Jerusalem. So who is this group? Who are the they that are there? All right. Who was Luke's targeted audience, Brother Kirby? Great question. Who is he speaking to or about? Absolutely. Where was Jerusalem and where were they coming from? And why did they go to Jerusalem? Why did they go for this Passover? Why was the Passover in Jerusalem? So the setting here is during the Passover. We need to decide and I know the Passover is an annual feast. I put that in my notes. But if you don't know what the Passover is, what is the Passover? Where is the Passover? There we go. How long was the Passover? How often was the Passover? These are things that you will want to know. They're important. And I note here that it is something that their family, this is like their annual family vacation. That's what I put. The family attends as usual. And whenever I think about the Passover, y'all already know I'm Kojic. My family goes to the Holy Convocation every year. My father took my family every year. And my father's gone to be with the Lord. And guess what? My family still goes every year. My mother goes. My brother and his children go. And so it is a thing that we go. And when I see this here, that's always what it reminds me of. So it's annual. They go every year. Yeah, it is in many ways like a big family reunion, Brother Kirby, for sure. How far did they have to travel to the Passover? Sister Angela asked. I like the questions. And so what I see here, other things that I noted, Jesus is 12 years old in the passage. I want to know, is there any significance to the number 12? Like, why does he have to be 12 years old? What I know about a 12-year-old is, yes, they're minor children, but they're old enough to be responsible. They're old enough to know things and to know patterns and to see things and to be observant. And quite frankly, they're old enough not to get left behind. But that's another conversation. We'll go there in a minute. All right. We'll go there in a minute. He stays behind. He's old enough to make a decision, right? He makes a decision and he does not go back. He does not leave with his parents. Yet the text tells me they are not aware. The text in verse 43 says they knew it not. So they are not aware. When they have fulfilled the days, what does it mean to fulfill the days? And that, well, for me, I decided it was a complete observance as I was reading. But what does that mean to fulfill the days? I just said that I feel like there's a routine. I've already talked about my own family, but there's a routine. Whenever I see this level of routine, and I know that the Passover has to do with their faith, I always think that this is like, it demonstrates faithfulness to me, right? That they will do this every single year. It is a committed part of what they believe, a committed part of what they believe. What does it mean to tarry? Brother Kirby says, age 12 in Hebrew culture. What is this? There's something significant about it. And I just feel like Jesus, I have a brother. But to me, there's just kind of this age where, like, I think boys and girls do. They just kind of start asserting their own sort of decision making. So this kind of felt like a shift to me, right? Because I've already said that 12 means he's not a child, right? He's not a little bitty kid who requires a lot of supervision. And he seems to be at the point that he's starting to make his own decisions. And I felt like a little tension starting to build in this passage, because what parent wants their kid to get lost? In fact, I think I say in my notes later on, I've been the kid to get lost before in Montgomery wards. And I don't honestly know if my mother was freaking out. I know that I went and found security and they called my mother over the loudspeaker. And I know that she wasn't real happy about that. I mean, she was happy to be reunited with me, but, kind of like Mary, it was like, hey, what were you thinking? Who told you to get away from me? You keep your eye on me. You stay with me. I got all that, right? So again, that's why I said I kind of feel like this little tension. He's gone and they don't know what's happening. So I'm wondering, I may not find out, but what's going on in his 12-year-old mind? Was he feeling compelled to stay there? Was he curious about what was going on? And did he realize like the angst that he was going to cause his parents? Did that ever occur to him? Passover is also a passing down of their culture and tradition. I like that. Absolutely. And I think these things that we do as kind of a routine I think that way today. Like my nieces and nephews, like they know. And it's not all the convocation. I was in Arkansas 2 weeks ago at the homecoming at the Common Hill Baptist Church in Hope, Arkansas. My nieces and nephews know, fourth Sunday in June. There are 12 fourth Sundays in a year. When my mother says, are you going to fourth Sunday? And she's talking to her cousins or whatever, she's only talking about one fourth Sunday a year. And that's in June. The other 11 don't matter. So same thing for us. It is like passing down that tradition and passing down that culture. So I like that comment a lot. How did the mother feel? Did she feel fearful or angry or agitated? These are all great questions. Let's keep going. But when they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him amongst their kinfolk and acquaintance, and when they found him not, they turned back to Jerusalem seeking him. Verse 44 just says they, and because I separated these, so if you were kind of putting them in large chunks, I just wanted to break this up for the purpose of this conversation. Technically 41 through 45 kind of go together, but because I broke them up, who is this they? We know that these are his parents, right? So you should have an arrow pointing back to the parents. They make an assumption. That's what suppose means here. They make an assumption and they assume he's with other people. So that also should tell you something about like how big the crowd of people is that are traveling. That number one, like there's a comfort. If he's here, he's with his cousins. Like when I was with the family a couple of weeks ago in Arkansas, I can honestly tell you for the most part, like I would hear every now and then, where's Noe, or, where's Emma Kate or whatever. But for the most part, because we were amongst the community of family, we weren't worried about our kids being snatched up and taken off into the trade. We were comfortable. So that's kind of what it made me think about here. The term it takes a village comes into play as the parents thought he was with other members of their group. Absolutely, Sister Angela. And so at some point, no, they don't. They realize he's missing. There's a reality, but their initial response is not like fear and panic. Not at all, right? They take a normal course of action. Let me go see if I can find this boy. He got to be up here somewhere, right? But I also note time in here in verse 43. There's a day's journey. So I think that goes back to whose question? Somebody asked a question. Sister Angela asked, how far did they travel? The fact that they already been gone a day and they're not home yet means that they've gone quite a distance. So they've left the temple. They've been gone for a day before they realize they haven't seen their son. That's a high level of comfort. These parents today not let them get out of their sight for no 24 hours. What are we doing? All right. So a full day before they realize he's missing, and they look among the people that they are with, and then they make a decision to go back and find him. And that's where I mentioned I got lost once. I've been lost before. I've been lost. So again, the fear, how does a parent feel when a child is missing, right? The anxiety of realizing that your child is not with you. They are not up there with their cousins. They're not with the friends or whatever. And I would imagine that didn't feel really good. So I use words like frantic or gut punching. And that kind of moves them into a different space, right? Because they go back. I just wonder what that moment was like. Joseph, you seen your son? No, I haven't seen him. I know. Last time I saw him, he was da da da. All right. So, why didn't anyone realize that he wasn't with the group? And I guess when I thought about that question, sometimes when we are traveling as a group, like when I went to Israel, even the person that you sat next to on the bus, did you not know your seatmate hadn't made it back to the bus? So it was kind of like a buddy system to look out. So it just kind of makes me think that even amongst the friends, maybe there was no real buddy system. That's just my mind working. We're not going to get lost in that detail. I have fun when I read Bible text, but there clearly is no buddy system here. All right, let me keep going. And it came to pass, verse 46, that after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished in his understanding and his answers. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I sought thee sorrowing. So my people that I see Jesus here. He's got religious teachers or doctors present, and his parents are also present. And it came to pass, it's kind of like as the story goes on for me, that's one of those phrases. There's another marker of time after 3 days. 3 days seems to be important in the life of Jesus already. This is 3 days. We're just at the beginning. Sister Linda says, was he being defiant when he said, I'm being about my father's business? Sister Linda, it was a couple times in Jesus's life when he was responding to parents, and I was just like, Jesus, I don't think that would go over so well today I wouldn't work with my parents. Didn't you know I need to be about my father's business? I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. But even remember when he performed his first miracle, woman, what have I to do with this? My time has not yet come. Jesus, you're doing not too much, Jesus, not too much, not too much. That's what the young people will tell you. I think Jesus said he was about his father's business. Absolutely, Sister McLean. It was a total of 4 days. Yeah, Sister Angela, great call out. It's been a total of 4 days. So after 3 days, because they had already walked one, after 3 days, they found it. Now, here was my question. You've been gone 1 day. You walked back 1 day, but it still took you 2 more days. I can't quite get my head around that. That's one of my questions that I had going into this. All right. How did Joseph feel when he said this? And I had another question as well. Let me see. Let me just go back for a second. Where did I see this? Maybe it was later. Yada, yada, yada. How did I read this earlier? It was here. It was in verse 43 where it read that as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew it not. I thought that was a curious stating of the text. It didn't say his father and his mother or even Joseph and Mary. It was Joseph and his mama. And I just thought that was interesting. So yeah, I think that's a great question to wonder, what Joseph felt like. I really do. Jesus prepared them to recognize he is God's son, Sister Beverly. Yep. He was already starting to have that kind of language with him. Jesus, his parents knew he was a special child. If they didn't know before, they know then. When they walk into a temple and they find him sitting in the middle of people who are, they are doctors, and he's got this ability to talk to them in the temple, and he hears them. And I love this part of the text. He is not only hearing them, but he's asking them questions. What kind of 12-year-old has doctors wrapped up asking them questions? And I do love something that our Sunday school president in the Church of God in Christ says, that wisdom is in the question, right? So I think it's important that he's not just hearing what's happening in the temple, he's asking questions. What else? I noticed in the text that he's not just listening, he asks questions. The teachers are amazed. His parents are amazed, but they're worked up. You got your mom and daddy stressed out, Jesus. You're doing too much. Yeah, they're amazed at his knowledge. Absolutely, Sister Angela. They are amazed. Hey, Sister Carol Cook, good evening to you. Yep, they were astonished. So the words that I see in here are, they're amazed, they're astonished, but they also don't hold back. There's sorrow in here as well, right? Behold, your father and I, we've been looking for you. We've been really sad. You had us worried, Jesus. Right. So I felt like this emotional charge with the mother, like, Why have you done this to us? And I thought that was a curious stating of the question as well. Like, I don't think he like woke up that morning to cause them that kind of pain. And at the same time, that was how it landed with them, right? So it does make me sometimes think about how our actions don't always necessarily land on the other side, the ways. I don't think we always think it through. And I don't think Jesus was thinking it through at all. Like, he was here for a purpose. He's here, as he said, I'm about my Father's business. And as I go about my Father's business, I realize it's going to create some moments of discomfort for some people, but I am about to step into and start walking in purpose. So again, I think it feels kind of an overwhelming kind of feeling, but in a good way, right? Because they now like have this kind of thing that they got to sort out. They're amazed. They're working through a lot of emotion. They're amazed. They're relieved, but you kind of had us worried. All the feels. I saw this admiration of the teacher, but I did feel like Mary had a little mama on her, like in that tone. Like, Jesus, why are you doing this? Like, it just has a real mama tone to me. It just really does. Let's see here. It shows the power of being drawn. Yeah, Sister Evangelist Glenn. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie. Like, again, I was like auntie kind of proud when you see this 12-year-old who's got people captivated, who are knowledgeable in the word. Like, this is what they do. And here's this 12-year-old who is able to hold space and hold conversation with them. Like, I love this story. I love that he has that. So I wonder what the teachers were thinking. I wonder what kind of questions, if wisdom is in the question and you had this audience captivated, what kind of questions was he asking? And it also makes me think, whenever I read this story, it also seriously makes me think about how are we creating spaces where our children today are asking questions? And are we pushing them to a space where they are becoming curious about the things of God, curious about the word, pushing and asking conversation? I'm trying to think. Our children asked one day, was Jesus saved? And the reason that they asked the question was, well, we've been taught that this is the plan of salvation, right? And I'm coming back to this in a moment. But I liked it that they were thinking, if this is what it means to be saved, if you are to accept, confess, and believe, how did he confess, accept, and believe in himself? We went through that with them, but I loved it because they are listening and they are putting together the pieces and they're starting to ask questions. So I like to create teaching spaces where children are not afraid to think and they're not afraid to express themselves. I was that kid that drove everybody nuts with my questions. I'm the kid who asked my daddy, how you know God is a boy? How do you know? How do you know? Dad, I had a question for you. So now I'm sorry. Adam and Eve had 2 sons. And we just had this conversation about me getting a baby sister, and I get it now, how the whole baby sister situation. I got you. That's kind of weird, but okay. If that's how y'all say it went down, cool. But now let's talk about this. Adam and Eve, 2 sons. Where the rest of the people come from? So again, creating spaces where children can ask questions. All right. Parents were on the natural and Jesus was in the spiritual realm, Sister Carol says. So did Jesus know his parents were looking for him, and did he expect them to know where he would be? All right, let's keep going. And he said unto them, how is it that ye sought me? How were you looking for me? Wist ye not that I must be about my Father's business? And they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. So in this passage, these are the first recorded words that we see. And his answer seems a little bit like surprised, like, how you didn't know I was going to be here? Where did you think I was? And I too have to see many of you asking, what is this, my Father's business? And I felt like that was like a bold distinction, right? Because you are telling your father, Joseph, who we call Joseph in this passage, right? But you're here to I got to be about my Father's business. Joseph is like, this ain't my business. I didn't tell you to stay here with these people. So what father is he talking about, right? He's already sort of drawing this line in the sand. And I do agree with Sister Carol says, like, he's already starting to assert kind of this spiritual being. Like, we're starting to see that for the first time from him. And verse 50 tells me very clearly, his parents don't get it. They are seeing that he is different. They are experiencing that he is different. But in this moment, they've kind of got all these little pieces, but they cannot make a statement that he is different for these reasons. Like they're not understanding how all these pieces are working together. So there is sort of this gap, right, in understanding. Jesus knows fully who he is. At 12 years old, he knows fully who he is, and yet his parents don't fully understand. I think there's something in that a lot of us may not fully understand. Like all of us are in a space where we have to grow to fully know who he is. I'm gonna wrestle with that some. I did feel like that was like heaviness in his words. Like he is starting to state his purpose. And it also tells me that young people can have a sensing. I know we're talking about Jesus, but it does tell me that young people can have a sensing of understanding and knowing that there's a call of God to them to be more and to do more. And it, in a sense, I get it. I'm reading one part of a scripture in a small passage, but like when I read this, it is kind of sad, right? That he has parents who don't in this moment fully understand what God has placed in him and who he is and that he is God. When I say it makes me sad, I don't mean like boohoo tears, but like even when I read the story of David being anointed king, it makes me sad that his father, Jesse, parades all his other sons out there, but you don't think enough of the one in the back tending sheep? Like he wasn't going to be good enough? That those kinds of things, like when parents don't see certain things in their children, it makes me sad. All right. So, did Mary remember this later? I want to know that. What does Jesus already know about himself? And then I want to explain, like, what does that mean? At this age that you're about your father's business. How do you know you're about your father's business? All right. Let's see if you all said anything else here. I'm going to the last two verses. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these sayings in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. At the age of 12, Sister Beverly says he's not a typical boy. He's not. And Sister Linda says, I know how scholars reacted when he said, I wonder how scholars reacted when he said, I'm about my father's business, when his dad, as they know it, was right in front of him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good, Sister Linda. My first thought, Sister Amy says, did Mary forget what was told her by the angel? Yes, what you said. I would have been so protective over him. Absolutely. When the angels have already told you the mama of the Son of God, baby, I would be helicopter parent. I know I would. I just know I would. I would too, Sister Amy. So what I notice in this text is that Jesus goes home. I don't see in the text, after he had his little moment, he doesn't say, listen, I'm not going back with y'all. I got this. I'm going to stand. No, he goes home. He goes home. And we do see here that his mother doesn't let those words fall to the ground. Like she puts those words. Sometimes I believe you may hear a word and there's nothing that you can do with that word at the moment, but you don't need to let that word fall to the ground. So whenever I read this, I always think about that. I think there's one passage that says she pondered them in her heart. So she keeps all these words in her heart. And Jesus grows in every area. He's a 12-year-old boy, so he grows to be a man, right? He grows in every area, wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and with man. I feel like when I look at this, it also tells me that he is subject to them. So he goes home to be an obedient child. That's what the text tells me. So I think that's very different than the way he asserts himself in the temple. So I kind of want to think about that. I feel good for these parents. They found their kid. I know he's Jesus, but he's their child, right? So I feel comforted that they got the child. They're on their way home. I do think it is. I guess I see the beauty of his growth. That's how I explained it. That there is like this in between season. Like we truly see Jesus through seasons, right? We have him as a baby. Now we have him as a child. We'll have him again as, this man who's performing miracles. But to know that there was kind of this in-between season where he kind of went home and he was, I guess as regular as you can be for being the Son of God and growing up at home. I do admire Mary's quiet reflection because she doesn't respond outwardly. And that's what I was trying to express. Like you don't see any reaction after she's like kind of that panicky Jesus, like, hey, my goodness, you had us scared. We were really upset. And when he gives his answer, now she doesn't respond to that, right? There's sort of this quiet reflection, right? But she's taking it all in. I just wonder, I'm not going to get this in the text, but what do y'all talk about on the way home? What you mean your father's business, Jesus? What kind of questions were you asking them? What you been doing? Did you realize we were gone? Did it ever occur to you that we might be wondering about you? How was you planning to get home? These are all the questions I would have been asking on the way home. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What does it mean that he grew in favor with God and with man? And what was his life like? And I won't get this from the text, but again, because he goes home and he's obedient and he's subject to them. I mean, again, what's regular life like for Jesus? You growing up as a regular guy. All right. Let's see here. All right. I already saw Sister Amy's question. Favor with God. Sister Angela, he did as he was ordered. Absolutely. And yes, Sister Faye McLean, Mary was overwhelmed. That's all I got on the markup. Again, I dropped, if you didn't hear me say it at the beginning, first of all, if you didn't already do so, please click the thumbs up like button and share Markup Monday with somebody. At the beginning, scroll up at the top of the comments. I dropped 3 links because I've taught this lesson before in 2020, July 12th of 2020. So you will find the Markup Monday from that night or from that week. You'll find the lesson teaching, and you'll also find the social distancing Sunday school. So you'll find that I taught the lesson twice. Again, I want to ask you, I'm asking you, challenging you, listen to that. And did y'all know y'all can listen to lessons on double speed? I don't listen to anything in single speed on YouTube. I guess, I don't know. I don't think I have the time for stuff, but I also listen to Audible books on double speed. So put me on double speed, listen to the lesson, whatever you do. Now, I know sometimes when you're studying, you want to kind of take your time and you want to follow with those notes. But for the purposes of what I'm asking, I would love to hear your critique of how am I different? How am I the same? Have I grown? What do you think in my teaching? So I would love to see and hear your thoughts. I love y'all so much. I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of my Monday night, and I hope that you'll do the same. I love you all so very much, and I will see you later this week. Bye.